It's just coming up to 20 after 9 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of News and Views on Salam Media. Next, we are joined by Professor Garth Le Pere. He is a senior associate at the Mapungubwe Institute, and we're going to be looking at the current situation, obviously, between the US and Iran. And it seems to be a lot of finger pointing going on. And one kind of wonders, it seems to be every few days that the ceasefire is on, then it's off, then it's on, and then it's off again. So what on earth is happening there? And we do know that if currently the ceasefire is definitely off, there's going to be once again repercussions financially regarding oil prices, and the repercussions will be felt globally, of course. So we now understand that Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz, and the US has launched strikes, multiple strikes on the US. And this, according to the US, is in response to the Iranian Navy declaring that it has closed the Strait of Hormuz. And we also understand that Iran has targeted US military sites in Jordan and the Gulf with missiles and drones. So lots happening right now. Let's try and wade through all of the talk from both sides and understand where we as a global community are sitting at and understanding the current situation regarding, is it on or is it off, the ceasefire? A very good morning to you, Professor Garth Le Pere. Thank you for joining us, and you're going to give us obviously insights into this current matter, which is a bit confusing right now.
Yes, it is. It is quite complex, but I think one has to start, with differing interpretations of transit passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Both Iran and the United States are not party to the UN Convention on the Law of the Seas. So we have two differing interpretations on what constitutes transit passage. According to Iran, the Strait of Hormuz, it exercises territorial sovereignty, territorial control over the strait. And in terms of the US, under customary international law, it is entitled to blockade the strait and to exercise control so that you have safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz and the entire Persian Gulf, navigable waters, 160 kilometers odd, to allow, a fifth, more than 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas to pass through there unhindered. So you have these two different interpretations. And I think the Iranian side, the legitimacy of the Iranian side is much more compelling, because in terms of the territorial sovereignty over the strait, Iran does exercise full territorial possession and control over that, in contradistinction to America's claim that the transit passage entitles it to blockade the strait. And this is really has been the enduring trigger in the ongoing conflict. But we have to go back in time. I hope we have some time to unpack this a little bit, if I may. Let's go back to the previous so-called Iran nuclear deal under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the so-called Obama nuclear deal. And that started with the plan of action in 2013. Very distinct points for negotiation in the plan of action. And, that was under the auspices of Iran plus the P5 plus 2. So it was Iran with the permanent members of the Security Council, which is, China, the US, the UK, and France, plus Germany and the European Union. Now that resulted in the plan of action. That was sort of the impulse for the interim agreement, which resulted then in 2015 in the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And that was a very detailed plan of action that committed the two sides to certain resolutions and to undertake certain things over the life of the plan of action, which included the freeze on Iran's nuclear development. It included this keeping the Strait of Hormuz open for international passage and international navigation under customary international law, even though Iran at the time and the US at the time were not party to the UN Convention on Law of the Seas, plus a number of incentives, such as unfreezing assets, lifting of sanctions, as well as allowing Iran to trade very freely in international markets for oil. Now, the irony is this 14-point of action that has now been put in place, which is a synthesis actually of Iran's 10 points and its proposal for the peace plan, plus that the 14 points of the US, they come together in this 14-point memorandum of understanding, which is very asymmetric. It's a very, very unbalanced memorandum that does contain some elements of the JCPOA plan, but does not provide a strong negotiating basis, a normative, moral, and an operational plan that will allow for permanent cessation of this war and ongoing hostilities. Now the 60-day window is fast closing because of this resumption of the war. America pulled the trigger first, and one does not know where this is going. So the very weak foundation of this 14-point plan has now been further weakened. Although Trump in his contradictory statements departing from Turkey at the NATO summit says now the ceasefire is over, which de facto means that the memorandum of understanding does not hold any is no longer a legitimate basis for ongoing negotiation. So one is left in this quandary and a very difficult hiatus, not knowing what is going to happen next. And Iran has retaliated. It's attacked American bases in Bahrain, in Kuwait, as well as in Jordan, but targeting specifically Bahrain because Bahrain houses the 5th U.S. Navy fleet, which is a very important American asset in controlling, the waters of the Gulf.
So
we are now left. That by way of context, and this is where we are, as you explained in your introduction.
Okay, can I come in here? Two issues. You spoke about Trump making statements after he left the Turkish summit. Do you suppose that something had been discussed at that summit for him to have once again flip-flopped and said that the ceasefire deal is over? And then we also need to look at the neighbors of Iran and the Middle Eastern little empires. Oman, for example, the Sultanate of Oman has said that it is summoning the Iranian ambassador to Oman over the attacks on Omani territory. But what do they expect? What does Oman and other Middle Eastern little fiefdoms expect if Iran is being attacked? They are going to have to defend themselves. And the only way they do and have done thus far is obviously targeting U.S. interests in these Middle Eastern little fiefdoms. Thus far, I don't think there have been very many fatalities as far as citizens in those countries are concerned. There might have been one or two, but to Iran's credit, there haven't been any citizen fatalities, not that I'm aware of. So those two issues, if you could respond to, please.
Well, you see, the basis of evidence here is subject to ambiguity. Trump's claim that Iran fired on vessels in the Strait, ostensibly because of vessels were now starting to use the southern corridor rather than the northern corridor that passes very close to the Strait of Hormuz. And apparently Iran was now starting to charge vessels a fee for safe passage. So if they were using the southern part of the Strait of Hormuz, this obviously means a loss in revenue. That has not been established. But that apparently has been the trigger of, since Sunday at least, of reigniting, the Americans now, establishing a basis for attacks against Iran. And we are left sort of wondering what is the end game here, because
Okay.
the memorandum of understanding no longer serves as a strong and viable, legitimate, legal and a ethical base on which to continue these negotiations. You see, and one is always has to go back. Can I just finish this? One always has to go back.
An ad break. Okay.
We always have to go back, to the legitimate basis of trust and confidence that were established during the JCPOA period between the main protagonists. Now, even though they were the P5, Permanent Five, plus Iran, plus the European Union and Germany, the main protagonists were Javad Sharif, the Iranian foreign minister, and John Kerry. And they established a basis of confidence around which they could build trust and confidence in each other, that each negotiating point of progress would mark a strong basis of building the foundation for the JCPOA, which then resulted in the final agreement in 2015, which then Trump jettisoned in 2018. Yeah, all right.
Sorry, we do have to go for an ad break. We'll come back and pick up from where we've left off. Thank you indeed, and I do apologize for the interruption.
It's all right.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Quantum Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit quantu.co.za. The Quantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
When you give water, you bring life to drought-affected communities, providing fresh water for drinking, cleaning, and growing. Your support helps Islamic Relief implement water, sanitation, and hygiene projects, providing clean water to communities around the world. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
It is exactly 9:33. I do have Professor Garth Le Pere. Professor, thank you indeed for your deep insight into this matter. I've just been told I've got to wrap up the interview. So if you'd like to very quickly tell me about why you believe there was a change of, once again, Trump flip-flopping after the Turkey summit. Out of the blue, he said that the ceasefire is over.
Well, I think, this current ecosystem of negotiations that exists, under the memorandum of understanding and its 14 points is not built on the basis of trust and confidence. And I, just before we went to break, I sort of raised the level of trust and confidence that existed between the two main protagonists, during the negotiations around the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And that Javad Sharif and John Kerry of the United States, the Iranian foreign minister and the Secretary of State, had built a level of trust and confidence. And if I may use an analogy, it was very similar to what happened in this country between Cyril Ramaphosa and Ruth Meyer. They had to build a strong sense of confidence and trust in each other, that they would stick to commitments and that their principles would be bound by those commitments. That does not exist currently, I'm afraid. President Trump is a very, I have to be very careful in how I select my words here, but he does not have the strategic intelligence nor the tactical literacy of a Barack Obama, shall we say. And as a consequence, his trusted advisors, both his Secretary of State and Defense, are equally lacking in this sort of strategic literacy that is required as a basis for moving this deal forward. And then we can, we don't have time, but we can even go back to what was the trigger of this war. It has not been proven that Iran is in a pursuit of a nuclear weapon. I've been to Iran twice as a student and I've not, like the IAEA intrusive investigators, I came away not convinced that Iran is in the pursuit of a nuclear weapon.
Okay, Professor, we're going to have to leave it there. I do hope to have further discussions with you on this matter in a future interview. I would love to pick your brains further, but let's leave it for now. Thank you indeed for your input. Till the next time, as always, God bless.
You're most welcome. Bye-bye.
8:35 exactly. News and views moving along. Please stay with us.